So we're live streaming on our YouTube channel as well. We're going to start the service. Actually, it's 2 o'clock right on, and I believe we should begin. Here we go. Hello, my friends. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming to join me here today. I hope you are healthy and staying spiritually connected. And, during these difficult times, and as time goes on and on and on, and the future is still uncertain, and we are still grappling with the effects of this pandemic and everything else that is going on. It's getting more and more surreal. And there are times when it's just seemed to be normalizing. It's like, oh, yeah, this is how life is now. And then there are times when it's just like, oh, my goodness, what is going on here and how long is this going to last? So what I want to say is that you have come to the right place to be with us here, because we are tending to our hearts and our souls. And I'm so glad that you have tuned in to join me. I'm Reverend Judith Laxer. I'm honored that you've chosen to spend an hour or so of your time with me and this virtual community here in Gaia's Temple. So we always get going by, getting the energy moving with a little bit of, um, hold on one second here. I want to make sure I do something very important, and that is done. Okay, sorry. All right, so we always get the energy moving by starting with a little song. And so Tim is going to put the lyrics up. Many of you have sung this with us before. I don't remember where I learned this song or who wrote the lyrics to it, but it's a pretty simple chant. And I will just sing it a couple of times through. Sing along with me in your muted sort of way. And here we go. It goes like this. Hoof hoof and horn, all that dies shall be reborn. Vine and grain, harvest time is here again. Hoof and horn, all that dies will be reborn. Vine and grain, harvest time is here again. Hoof and horn, all that dies will be reborn. Vine and grain, harvest time is here again. Hoof and horn, all that dies shall be reborn. Vine and grain, harvest time is here again. Hoof and horn, all that dies shall be reborn. Vine and grain, harvest time is here again. Such a simple little chant, but I just love it. I think it's just pretty profound, not only speaking to this particular time on the wheel of the year, but just kind of as a metaphor for all of life. All right, so we will move on now and create a little bit more formal sacred space. So if you would, take a moment, close your eyes and go within. Let's take a nice deep breath together. Oh, good. And staying with our focus inward, let's take a moment now and call all the pieces and parts of us to come home. So any part of you that is anywhere stuck in your past, distracted by any of the myriad things going on in our world, or projected anywhere into your future, gently ask all those pieces and parts to come home to you so that you can be here now. And breathe into that presence. Feel yourself fully alive in this moment. And on the next exhale, begin to ground yourself to the earth by imagining a line of energy that extends from the base of your spine like a strong taproot, reaching down, down, down through the chair or wherever it is that you are seated. If you're inside, down through the foundation of the building that you're in, or if you're outside, just right down deeply into Mother Earth. Feel your strong taproot enter into the planet. Feel how she opens to receive your energy as you send your taproot down deep and deeper and even more deeply, as deep as it needs to go. so that you feel very connected to her, very grounded and strengthened by this deep connection to the earth. And breathe life into this strong taproot. Send out smaller little branches reaching out and taking hold. Imagine now that those rootlets and the main taproot become porous and start to drink the energy of Mother Earth up into them, and keep drawing that energy up the roots, up into your spinal column, and all the way up to your heart, knowing that what you're drinking in from the earth is her nourishment and her sustenance and her beauty and her strength and resilience, and most of all, her unconditional love. Draw all of that beauty up into your heart. And when she arrives there, let her rest. Just take a moment to feel all of that in your heart. And leaving the earth energy there in your heart, look to the heavens and find the moon. She is waning now in Aries, fiery, and the sun, who is Leo, and he's fiery. So let's draw all that beautiful, fiery, passionate warmth down from the heavens. Imagine the moon as silver light, see the sun as his golden light, and feel the silver and gold pouring down from the heavens, entering into your crown, and draw them all the way down into your heart. The great Mother Goddess and the great Father God, down they come, entering into you, down into your heart. And when they arrive, once more, breathe deeply to make more room for them. Excellent. Now, in a moment, I'll have us take one deep collective breath. And on the exhale, we'll imagine that we can use that breath to push these energies of earth, moon, and sun from our hearts straight forward outside of our bodies. Let's imagine them swirling their energy all around, not only us individually where we are, but somehow through this energetic, connecting all of us who are participating in this service today, and even those who will watch it later in the future, connecting all of us in our safe and sacred space. So here we go, deep breath. And out it goes. In this way, we say we have stepped between the worlds. What is between the worlds is not affected by the worlds, but can heal and transform. And so we say, our circle is cast in perfect love and perfect trust. Blessed be. And now we'll go over to Patrick Corrigan, who is going to sing in the elements and directions for us. And we can all sing along with him as we go.
So we start with the spirits of the earth in the north. Spirits of the earth, carry me. Spirits of the earth, carry me home. Spirits of the earth, carry me home to my heart. And the spirits of the air in the east. Spirits of the air, carry me. Spirits of the air, carry me home. Spirits of the air, carry me home to my heart. And the spirits of fire in the south. Spirits of the fire, carry me. Spirits of the fire, carry me home. Spirits of the fire, carry me home to my heart. The spirits of the water in the west. Spirits of the water, carry me. Spirits of the water, carry me home. Spirits of the water, carry me home to my heart. The spirits of the center. Spirits of the center, carry me. Spirits of the center, carry me home. Spirits of the center, carry me home to my heart.
Great Gaia, Mother of all life, be with us. Bountiful Mother of the harvest, be with us. Prolific Mother of regenerative plenty, be with us. As the wheel turns and autumn slides in, be with us. Today we listen attentively to the language of your nature. Be with us. We seek to glean the wisdom in that language. Be with us. To gather a grateful harvest. Be with us. To look ahead with far-seeing eyes. Be with us. To ensure a future we will want to meet in time. Be with us. We lift our hearts in gratitude for all you provide for us. Be with us. We gather on this fine day to be in your presence. Be with us and blessed be.
Blessed be. Thank you both, Patrick and Karina, for helping to create our sacred space. It's beautiful. All right, well, here we go. So, my friends, here we are continuing to walk a nature-oriented path, deeply connected to the earth. And as we go through the seasons, we are listening very, very carefully and paying attention to the language of nature. By doing so, we are always asking ourselves, what is happening in nature at this time? In any given moment, what is happening out there? And then in our spiritual practice, we try to emulate it. I know I've said this over and over again, but it's just always good to reorient back to this because it really is the foundation of our spiritual practice. When we emulate nature, I think we live lives that have more ease because it's natural and we are just following the natural flow of how things go. And also we are walking in tune with the intelligence of nature. And I think it helps us to live more deeply connected lives, deeply spiritually connected lives by living here on this planet. So being in her nature is really the way to go. And of course, we need to continue to do our work for our continued spiritual growth. We have lots of growth to do all the time in how best to take care of our bodies and our minds and our hearts, but we must also take care of our spirits because that's the wisdom, part of the wisdom of this whole cycle, that it is about wholeness and our spirit is part of that wholeness. So we align for spiritual connection and so that we can continue to grow spiritually. And as pagans who walk the spiritual path, we are always listening to the language of nature, and we do so with great attention. And we do so because the language of nature is most often a quieter voice. I mean, we will hear the crash of the waves and the wind howling, and nature will certainly make noise, but mostly her voice is quiet. And with all the other loud voices that are shouting about everything else, we often lose the sound of nature. We often lose the language of nature. And I fear that if we continue not listening to the language of nature, not only will that not bode well for us, for any of us and for all of us, but also that we will lose the wisdom inherent in that language. So it's important that we maintain really tuning into what it is that she has to say. Of course, we also remember that in our spiritual tradition, we don't view time as linear. We view it as cyclical, but rather than seeing ourselves going round and round, sort of chasing our tails in one spot, we might say that that cyclical nature is more like a spiral. And so it's moving and we are not static. And each time we go around that wheel, we have, perhaps because we've been there before, we have a different experience of going through time as we mature and garner these experiences. And so we can say, or most of us, I'm sure, have experienced as we go through the wheel of the year, that the beauty of it just deepens for us. Our deep understanding of this model is not just for how we experience our lives season to season, but sort of a model for the soul. And that is just so grounding and such a beautiful, beautiful thing, I think. It is for me, certainly. So, on the wheel of the year, we have those 8 natural earth holy days called Sabbats, and we just passed Lunasa, which means Festival of Lu, the sun god. And we were honoring him as he pours his sunlight down onto the earth, readying her for harvest. So this is the time of harvesting. Now, if you, like me, keep a garden, most likely you've been harvesting for a while. I know that, I've been pulling out lettuce and radishes from the garden as early as April of this year. And all along through the rest of the months, I've been just enjoying artichokes and broccoli and kale and chard and string beans and peas and all kinds of wonderful things. So the harvest has been coming in. But this particular point on the wheel of the year is the time of the harvest of the first grains. And why that is significant is because, the ancients, before the development of agriculture, followed the animals. They followed the herds in order to survive through the fallow time and the harshness of winter. And once we came to realize that we can actually plant some of those seeds that fell from the plants, and they would grow again the next year, we were able to kind of stay put. And that significantly changed our relationship to the earth, where we were able to sort of find ourselves grounded in place. Once we came to understand that we could take that grain and learn how to process it so that we could turn it into flour and store it, that meant in the middle of the winter, we could bake ourselves a loaf of bread and survive way more easily than having to track the animals out there in the elements. So this was a significant change. And so we celebrate the harvest of the first grains at this time. Now, we're so used to just going to the grocery store and buying whatever it is that we want at any time, including a loaf of bread whenever we run out of it or we want one. But when you really start to think of what actually goes into bringing that daily bread to the table, it really amps up your appreciation for the relationship that we have with the earth. And we've gotten so far away of that in our modern times, so far away from that with all of our conveniences. Don't get me wrong, I love my conveniences like everybody else. Even with my garden that I adore, I'm grateful there's a grocery store so that I'm not completely relying on this little urban garden to survive. And when I really get in touch with exactly what goes in to bringing that food in, my relationship to the earth is really heightened, along with my gratitude for that. So here we are at harvest time. The growing season is maturing. We are taking in the vegetables and the fruits and all of this beautiful stuff in abundance. To the ancients, summertime was a time of hard work. We wait for summertime to go on vacation. This is when we take a break and we want to get out and play in the sun. Whereas the ancients were working very hard at this time because, it just shows us how far we've come away from nature. And then in the winter, when we should be taking a long winter nap and relaxing, that's when we go into the busiest social season of the year. So we have just done the complete opposite, which puts us in a way kind of against nature. It's kind of unnatural. It's anti-nature. So anyway, here we are looking at how the ancients would be working very hard during the summer season, taking in the harvest, but also thinking about preserving it for the future. They had their eye toward the future. So while everything was abundant and delicious and coming in the moment, they were also thinking, okay, a few moons from now, my garden is not going to be producing like this. How can I take this fresh, beautiful thing and make sure I have it later on when the earth is not producing? And so what I think this has done, because we are so used to our modern conveniences, is that we have stopped kind of thinking ahead, or stopped having like a really good skill set about thinking ahead. And so what I'm seeing is the rise in very short-term thinking. Now, we are living in very urgent times. There's no doubt about that. And the urgency, when something is urgent, we must address it in the moment. It is a short-term thing. There's a problem right here, right now. We must address it right here and now. So when we think about, all that's going on, like starting with this pandemic, right? It is still here. It is still serious. It is dire, life and death dire. It is contagious and it is not contained. That is urgent. And so we must turn toward exactly what we need to do in the moment to protect ourselves. And hopefully we are doing everything they are asking of us to keep this pandemic from this disease from continuing to spread. It's urgent, and we are urgently engaged, hopefully, in trying to contain this thing. Then we can look at, climate change with these roaring wildfires out of control and hurricanes way larger and more intense than they've ever been, and earthquakes and temperatures rising. And it is urgent, and we must turn toward that and do everything we can to mitigate this urgency right here, right now, in the short term, right? And looking at the whole political scene that's going on in our country right now, and the incredible divisiveness that's happening, and also, our place in the global community. It's urgent, and we have to take care of these things like right away in the short term. So those actions that we take are right actions, and they are appropriate in response to the urgency of our times. However, we mustn't let this short-term thinking blot out or dismiss our long-term thinking. And so that's why I called this service today, Make Hay While the Sun Shines. And we've all heard that expression. And essentially what it means is we must take the opportunities when we have them to preserve and take the actions now for what we want to manifest or have in our future, so that when we meet it in time, we are happy that it is there and it manifested that way. So, but I've never really looked at what goes into actually making hay. But I want to go back and see, this is why I keep checking my notes, because I skipped over something. So we want to be able to look with the long term. Now, here is a very important distinction. Thinking ahead and catastrophizing ahead are two very different things. And we have to really make that distinction. I know what happens for me when I really start to think about what's going on this planet and all of the things that are happening at once, is one of two things. Either I go into deep sorrow and despair, or I become paralyzed in fear. Those are two very common responses that I have experienced over and over because of these urgent times. And I know that neither one of them, when I'm a heap of tears on the floor or paralyzed like, a deer caught in the headlights, neither of those states are helpful. And if what we have to do is stay in action to create something for the future that we want, then being paralyzed or completely disempowered by despair is not going to be the answer. So we must stick with our critical thinking skills. It's easy when we look at catastrophes happening everywhere to think, this is it. It's going to be nothing but catastrophe from here on out. But that is not necessarily true, and we don't really know that to be true. But we can catastrophize ourselves into that as a truth, and I highly recommend that we don't. So we must use our critical thinking skills, which means, what do I really think and believe? Not what have I been conditioned to believe, not what is bombarding me and influencing me to think things that are just the worst case scenario. It's one thing to be prepared and think ahead, and it's another to catastrophize and then manifest those catastrophes. So we must keep our heads and use our own critical thinking skills. How could I have tried to skip over that point? I don't know. All right, so then getting back to the Wheel of the Year. So, this time of harvest, the harvest is still uncertain. There are still things growing in the garden and we don't really know if they're going to make it to fruition. The time of harvest is a time of assessment. We take a look at what's growing, how is it doing, what can we do now to make sure that things come to fruition in a good way? What do we need to do to course correct so that we can, move forward into the future and be happy? And so this is where Make Hay While the Sun Shines comes in. So as I started to say before, I didn't grow up on a farm, and I've seen pictures of bales of hay and big old fields, but I really didn't know anything about how that all happens. So of course I, did my research. And so this is what I found for those of you who also did not grow up on a farm and don't know very much about baling hay. And that is this, that hay is a grain, it is a grass actually, and it is grown specifically to feed livestock, horses, cattle, goats, sheep, all of that. And so I'm sure there are vegetarians and vegans in our community, but one way or another, we want to keep everybody and as much alive through the fallow time and the winter as possible. So even if we don't partake of animals on our plates, we still want to make sure, because we are deeply connected, that all of our animals make it through the winter, just like all of us, because we are animals, we want to make it through the winter. And so there's 4 parts to actually making hay, baling hay. And so the first, of course, is the mowing of the hay. So the grass is sown early, and typically at late spring, early summer, the first mow takes place, and then hopefully it'll grow again, so there can be another mow toward the end of summer, the beginning of autumn. And so the hay is mown and it lays there, and it lays there for a couple of days so that it can dry. And then the next step is called tedding. I don't know why it's called tedding. Maybe it was some man named Ted who figured out, hey, we better do this. And he said, I shall now call it tedding. But what has to happen is that then the grain needs to be flipped so that the underside that might be damp can also dry in the sun. And the reason for this, of course, is because if you, the next step is raking the hay together and then baling it, making it into a mound. And if the grass is still damp in any way before it is baled, it will mold, and then it will not be good feed for the livestock. I also just learned something recently, is that there's another danger of storing hay that is damp or that isn't completely dry. And that is that it continues to compost. And if any of you have a compost pile, it gets hot. And so this is often the source of barn fires, that the hay will just like spontaneously combust if it gets warm and dry enough, or warm enough, and that dampness is in there, and then a fire starts and there goes the barn. So it's really important that the hay be dry. And so the farmers would have to make sure that there were going to be a couple of dry days in a row, so that they could make sure that their hay was dry before they baled and stored it. So we cannot bale hay while we cannot bale hay. We cannot bale hay, little spoonerism there, while it's raining. We have to take the right opportunity when the time is right to act. And all of this is about doing something now for the future. So we can ask ourselves too at this time, especially this winter coming up, which is going to be so uncertain. What are we doing? Are we buying a little extra when we go to the grocery store? Do we do any canning? I don't know about you, but I love to can things. I just canned some jam yesterday from blackberries on my yard. Are we canning things? Are we freezing things? Are we drying things to preserve them so that we'll have them later? Just want to catch up here. Yes. That is all on a very practical level. And now when we look soulfully, when we're looking through our spiritual eyes, we must also ask ourselves, what did we sow, like in the garden of our lives? And will that nourish our souls in time? What are the things that we sowed in the garden? Were they the good things, the charitable acts, the acts of mercy, kindness, generosity, forgiveness? These are the things that are going to bring future blessings. Are those the things that we planted in the garden of our life, the garden of our souls? Or did we sow things, perhaps unconsciously, like fear or greed or scarcity or anger? Because that is what we are going to reap in time. And is that really what we want more of? I don't think so. Another thing we ask ourselves at harvest time is, how did we tend to what we planted in our garden? Did we stay with it and tend to its needs? Sometimes we just think, oh, well, I'll just, put this little start in here. I'll throw these seeds over here. And then in the autumn, I'll come back and it'll all be there. But did we water it? Did we provide more food or fertilizer halfway through the growing season? Like, did we tend it? And we must do the same thing in our own lives. It's not enough to just be kind, although it's really good and I highly recommend it. I think we all need to do it. But are we kind in an ongoing way? Are we tending kindness by reminding ourselves in every given moment, how kind can I be right now? In this situation, what's the kindest thing I can say? The kindest thing I can do? In this situation, how generous can I be? What grace can I offer? That tending in an ongoing way is going to bring the blessings later that we are going to want. And if our world situation is as dire as it is, we want to be planting those seeds of those good things, and we want to be tending those things so that they come to fruition. So another way that we tend the garden of our lives is to teach how to do these good acts. Teach them to the youth, teach them to people who might not be doing it so well. And really, how we teach is not necessarily like, you're supposed to do this, although sometimes finger wagging just seems so natural and so easy to do. But more to the point, it's how we model. It's how we model. What behavior are we modeling? If we are tending our own lives like a garden, and we are stewarding it well, and we are doing everything that we need to, and others see how that is done, that is a form of tending. Because as we know, we're all in this together. So rather than abandon or neglect or shirk our responsibilities for the things we have planted, even the things that we planted that we weren't conscious that we planted, an unkind word, a crabby statement, a snipe over Facebook, or whatever it is that just came out that was less than our highest vibration, let's go clean that up, So let's go ahead and clean that up. So I'm going to lead us through a little guided meditation now. And if you would, close your eyes, go within, get as comfortable as you can wherever it is that you are seated. Let's take another nice deep breath. Reconnect to your grounding cord deep into the earth that we set down at the beginning of the service. And if you came in after we did that, go ahead and ground yourself now. Imagine yourself growing a nice, deep, strong taproot, connecting you to our beautiful planet Gaia, our Mother Earth. And then bring all of your energy into the very center of your being so that you're not only grounded, but you're very centered. So anything that is distracting or pulling you in a million different directions, pull all of that energy into your core, ground and centered. And then bring your attention up to your third eye in the center of your forehead. And imagine it like an actual eye, just like your other two. Open it up and look out through it into your imagination. And of course, you find yourself in your own beautiful garden on a warm, sunny day. And even if you don't keep a garden, you're there in your garden now anyway. So imagine what that would look like if you had one. It is a warm, sunny summer, beautiful day with puffy clouds in the sky, and in between them is the bright blue of summer. And you can hear bird song, and the air smells sweet and green. And you are standing beside a large garden bed that is lush and full. And in this particular garden bed, instead of vegetables and herbs and flowers that you might have planted, here grows all the different parts or aspects of your life. Relationships, your work, your health, your spiritual life, your charitable acts, your education, your participation as a citizen, your generosity, your ambitions, your grace, and your kindness. Deeply rooted, drinking in the sunlight, and growing. And now you notice that there are a few things here that you don't want to grow. Weeds that are stealing the nutrients from the good things in your life, that crowd them out and stunt their growth. And the first one that you notice is fear. Very universal. All humans feel it. And this fear is growing here in your garden. So take a moment as you rest your eyes, find the fear that is growing there. Rest your eyes on it. And then let your mind settle on the exact nature of this fear. What exactly you are fearful of. And there may be many things, but this represents one of your fears, perhaps the strongest one, or the one that is the most bothersome. See if you can pinpoint it exactly so that you know what this fear is all about. Take a moment and do that now. Good. And then reach down and pull that fear out of the garden. Weed out that fear. Take it up by the roots. In fact, you can hear the rip of roots as you remove it from the garden of your life. Good. And now it's out of that garden. And go ahead and toss it on the compost pile, which is right nearby, where you know it will break down into fertile soil for something else and something better to grow. Good. Now you notice something else that you don't want growing here in your garden: scarcity. The belief that there isn't enough, that you're not enough. Scarcity has been growing in your garden unchecked, but not anymore. Find scarcity growing there in your garden. And as you rest your eyes on it, think about what it is that you believe is scarce. And then go ahead and pull it out and remove it from the soil and put it in the compost pile as well. Good, very good. Now there's one more thing here that you find you want to weed out, and that is your anger. Anger that is growing in your garden. And that anger might be even more like rage or intolerance or frustration. I mean, it can have all kinds of things. There might be very many branches on this one. And this itself looks pretty tough. As you gaze at your anger growing here, you sense that there is so much more to it. It's a complex plant. And you also know, as you look at it, that what your anger is hiding is sorrow and worry and despair. So this one, anger, causes you to act in ways that you usually regret, ways that bring you down rather than uplift and inspire. And you're going to need both hands to pull this one out. So go ahead with both hands and do that now. Uproot and remove your anger from your garden of life, and then toss it in the compost pile. Good. Now immediately you can see and feel the spaciousness that you have created here by removing these things. Now there's more room for the things that you want to grow, the things you want to have healthy in your future. Good. Now on the ground beside this garden bed is a cardboard box that is holding fertilizer, plant food for the garden. Pick it up now and look to find the list of ingredients What are the ingredients in this fertilizer? And there you read, once you find the list, these things: love, generosity, grace, kindness, inspiration, devotion, and patience. Yum. Go ahead now and sprinkle some of this mixture around and between each thing that is still growing here: your relationships, your work, health, spiritual life, all of it. Feed these things well with all of these beautiful ingredients. Give them the nourishing boost they need so they will come to beautiful fruition in time. Good. And now, as if by magic, it starts to rain. A warm summer rain dropping from the clouds above. How perfect, because the rain will now soak the fertilizer into the soil, making it easier for the garden to digest them. And now, before you get soaked through, bring yourself back here to this service with me and gently open your eyes. Oh, take another nice deep breath as we all come back here. That's a good visualization to do again and again, because you know those weeds, you can pull them out, even all their roots, and there'll be another one that comes up before you know it. This is the tending of our lives. Now, listen, I know that all of the emotions, even the ones that we perceive to be negative, have their place. It's important for us to feel all of our emotions, including our anger and our frustration and all of those things. But we don't want to cultivate those things that would make us volatile and upset in an ongoing way, or to act out of our to not act out of our best selves. So while a little anger can motivate us to take good action, we don't want it growing rampant in our garden, making us an angry person and interacting with everybody from that angry way that brings everybody down. So this is the tending. This is the tending we must do in the gardens of our lives as the harvest comes in. We must take the time to remove what thwarts the fruition for the good things, and we must give more nourishment to what is still growing if we want to harvest well in the coming few months before the fallow arrives. You know, as we stand here just past Lunasa, we know we are just weeks away from entering into the dark half of the wheel. And so I want to talk about that for a moment, because if we're going to be cultivating how we think ahead, then we want to think ahead to this dark time. I know that entering into the dark half is difficult for most of us who really need that sunlight for our mental health, the vitamin D for our strong, healthy bodies, right? The dark time is difficult. And I've had conversations with friends in an ongoing way about how grateful we are that, you know, as bad as this COVID has been, that it came in springtime. So at least we've had like the sunlight and the warm weather, and we've been able to go out and socially distance. But as we look ahead toward the dark half of the wheel, if we haven't contained COVID, then it's going to be pretty challenging. And we think it's challenging now, and it's probably going to be more challenging. Now, I know, even as I say these words, I want to go, la, 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 la. Like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know that. But this is the time when we really have to take a look at it. So this is what I want to offer up. The dark half of the wheel, at least through New Year's, is so holiday oriented for us. It begins with, well, for me, it begins with, you know, Gaia's temple's anniversary is in September. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. And then comes Samhain, where we connect to the ancestors. And then it's Thanksgiving. And then it is Yule and that season. And then it is New Year's. And so we just kind of hop from one big holiday to the next. And those are very social occasions. And if we still have to socially distance, that is going to bring some challenges to how we do the holidays this year. I think it's a really good idea now, while the days are still long and twilight stretches into 8 and 9 o'clock, that we start to think about that. What is if we cannot get together for Thanksgiving this year, what do we need to do to make sure that we have a grateful Thanksgiving? If we can't get together for Samhain and do our rituals together, what can we do to make sure that we stay connected to our ancestors? If we can't get together for Yule, what are we going to do to make sure that we wake up that morning and feel joyful that the light has returned? Or our Christmas holidays, or whatever it is that we are involved in. Most likely, my friends, we are not going to be celebrating them this year the way we have. And we get very invested in our traditions. And if we can't do our traditions, we can start to feel despair about that. And that, well, it's just awful and we can't celebrate and it's not a holy day for me any longer. But I think part of what we want to harvest now is a different way of thinking about that. So, like, for example, if we can't meet for Thanksgiving with the people that we usually do, maybe we want to make sure everybody has access to Zoom and we set up a Zoom feast. I mean, we are so lucky that we have this ability to do this. There were times when we did not have this technology and we couldn't actually be seeing each other. So we just want to think ahead and plan for that. What might the holidays be like if we can't get on a plane and fly home to our parents, or the visitors who usually come, or we're not going to be cooking a 30-pound turkey for 12, 14, 16 people at the table? If that's not going to be happening, what can we do instead so that we truly get in touch with the meaning of each one of these holidays? How can I still connect to my ancestors? How can I still be grateful for the food on my table? How can I still embrace and welcome the return of the light? And I think it's really important to start doing that now. It's not like we're ever going to say, yay, it's great that we can't fulfill our traditions this year. But I do think that when we turn and face the truth of the reality that we are living in, and as much as we would prefer to be otherwise, we wrap our minds about this reality and start to embrace that we're going to do it differently. When we meet that in time, we will have an easier time of it. This is part of the harvest. We must harvest the ideas of how we're going to do things in the future because it's still so uncertain. So, my friends, as we stand just past Lunasa, we know we are just weeks away from entering this dark half of the wheel. And we must remember that beautiful saying, even though these are difficult times, this too shall pass, because the wheel turns and turns and turns.
And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, a time to laugh, a time to eat. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to build up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn. A time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to love, a time to hate, a time of war, a time of peace, a time you may embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to gain, a time to lose, a time to rend, a time to sow, a time for love, a time for hate, a time for peace. I swear it's not too late. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time to every purpose under heaven.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you so much. That was Dennis Griffith singing that beautiful song for us. So, my friends, may you be happy with reaping what you have sown. May your hay be dry and stored well in advance. And may your harvest be bountiful. Most of all, may we remember that we are all in this together. May we shed scarcity thinking, return to generosity, and know the beauty of the flow that returns when we give. Blessed be. All right, so here we are on our Zoom platform for the first time. And so far, so good, I think. You know, a few bugs here and there, but we're getting it. I think for the first time, not so bad. And so the good news is that we are able now to open up the floor for the community prayers. So I believe that on the chat, is it the chat feature? You can raise your hand if you have a community prayer, and then Tema will find you and she will put you up and unmute you so you can make that community prayer. And when you do, when you're finished, please say blessed be. This way we'll know that you are finished and we can go on to the next person. So is there anyone in our community who would like to offer a prayer at this time? Did I say the right thing about how to raise your hand? Did I?
I'm not sure if you see it in the chat or I see it in participants when it shows
Oh, in
up.
the participants. So on the bottom of the screen, there's a little row. And if you click on participants,
And you should have a button towards the bottom screen of participants for raising hand. Us hosts and co-hosts, we won't be able to see it, but participants should have it.
okay. Anyone?
All right, Mansur, you'll need to unmute yourself. I think you can do that now.
I think Speaker View might have done that also.
All right.
That was just an absolutely lovely talk. I really, really liked it.
Thank you.
Yeah. I remember what the 7 fertilizers of the Garden of the Life were. They were all just beautiful. So, alhamdulillah. Thank you.
Blessed be.
Blessed be. Yes, quite so.
Is that it for our community prayers today? We were so excited to have Zoom, so we thought we would have so many prayers. Everybody would be praying and praying and praying, and here we are. All right, well, I guess that's it then. And so I'll say, may all of our prayers, spoken and unspoken, be heard and answered. Blessed be. All right. So at this time, if we were in the service together, actually physically in the same location, this is when we would pass the love offering baskets. And but of course we can't do that. So we're going to pass the virtual love offering basket by asking you, when the service is over, to go to our website, gaiastemple.org, and click on the donate button. And please give as generously as you can. As you can imagine, we have taken a huge financial hit during this time, as many of us have. So we understand the hardship. And it's also really important to continue to support the things that matter to your heart and soul. So if there's any way that you can donate, for those of you who have made their pledge, made a pledge at the beginning of the year, hopefully you will continue to fulfill those pledges to keep us going. This is all about us. We are the ones who keep it happening. There's no big money coming from anyplace else other than our community. And I express my deepest gratitude to you for every bit of your support in every way, your financial support, showing up to all of our events, the love that I can feel for you. I hope you can feel it back from me. So please do donate as generously as you possibly can. And also, Gaia's Temple, we tithe 10% of what comes into our love offering baskets at the service each month to other nonprofit organizations in alignment with our mission and our vision and our values. And today, we will be tithing for whatever comes in on this date. So PayPal, if it says August 9th, we will total that up and tithe 10% of that total to the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is dedicated to fighting hate and bigotry and to seeking justice for the most vulnerable members of our society using litigation, education, and other forms of advocacy. So know that 10% of what you donate to us is going to go to them. And thank you in advance for your generosity. And we are going to sing the song that we usually sing, just because why not? We can do that now over Zoom. So Tem, I think, did you make that? There we go. And we've got our words to the song that we usually sing all the time. I'll sing it, sing along with me. Let's sing it 3 times through. Thank you, Mother Earth, for your gifts of love today. Thank you, Mother Earth. We are following your way. Thank you, Mother Earth, for your gifts of love today. Thank you, Mother Earth. We are following your way. One more. Thank you, Mother Earth, for your gifts of love today. Thank you, Mother Earth. We are following your way. Thank you so much, my friends. So I want to thank all the people who contributed to the service today, to Patrick Corrigan, who invoked and will release the directions and elements for us. Thank you so much, Patrick. Karina Frenzel, Reverend Sister, thank you for the invocation today. To Dennis Griffith, thank you so much for your beautiful song and for singing with us, for us today. Dennis has some beautiful music and some great CDs, so you can look him up if you like to support your local artist. And I want to also thank my board of directors as always. I don't know what I would do without these women. And today in particular for Tema Gotchberg, who is the host of this thing and has figured out so much of the technology and always makes me feel like I can take a deep breath because she's got it. So thank you so much, Tema. And also to Stina and Noemi and Karina, you are my right, left, up, down, and inside and outside hands. And I'm so, so grateful to you. to my board of directors. Blessed be to all of you. So a few announcements here. First is, if you haven't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so. And so we are going to be doing these services over Zoom now, but they're also linked to YouTube. So if people don't want to participate over Zoom, they can just go to the YouTube channel and watch the service from there. And what we found out, if any of you tuned into our Lunacy ritual, well, we had just a little bit of technical difficulties there. We were, I think, a little over than half an hour late till we finally figured it out. The reason for that is, I won't go into all the details of it, but using my laptop to film the ritual was very pixely at LIFA. So we decided we were going to use the iPad, which we had much better results with at the ritual before that for the lunacy ritual. But then when we tried to live stream from YouTube, we couldn't do it. And that's because YouTube requires 1,000 subscribers before they let you live stream over a mobile device, which an iPad is considered a mobile device. So we were just like scrambling to figure out how to get that ritual toward you. All that to say, we need 1,000 subscribers. And so if you haven't, please do. And if you have friends, please ask them. And for all the people who are on our social media sites, if you're watching or if you are hearing the sound of my voice, go to YouTube channel Gaia's Temple and please subscribe. That would be so wonderful. This Friday night, which is April 17th, I am going to be leading a healing salve making class, live streaming through Zoom. And so it's going to be it'll be at 7 p.m. Sorry, let me get all my details together. 7 p.m. August 17th. We're charging only $15 for this class. We usually charge $20 and then a supply fee, but you won't be going home with any of this healing salve, but you will learn how to make it on your own. So if you're interested in joining that class, go to the website and register through PayPal. And when you do, please notate salve making class, because now all the funds are coming through PayPal and we don't know which is supposed to go into what bucket for Gaia's Temple. So this would be going into the class bucket. And also we'll need to know who is registering for that so that I can email you the Zoom invite and then you can join the class. But I hope you join because it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll do a little kitchen witchery there and make some healing salves. And then, and this is just huge. Next month, September, is our 20th anniversary. Gaia's Temple's 20th anniversary. It's a little hard for me to believe. And of course, we had amazing plans. We were going to throw a huge bash and there was going to be a big ritual theater production. And, I like to think big. I've got some big ideas for this lifetime, but COVID took care of all of that. However, we are going to have a virtual celebration. So that is going to be, oh my goodness, what is the date? I want to say the 12th, September 12th, the Saturday evening, 7 p.m. And we are going to be doing it over Zoom. And we have an amazing array of artists who are going to be coming on and each singing the song. Dennis Griffiths is one. And also we're going to have Wendy Rule and Celia and Amber Darland and Patty Zaitlin and Simone LaDrama and Pam Gerke and Oriel Lighton and some amazing artists who are going to perform for us. So it's going to be a lovely celebration of the 20 years. And I do hope indeed that you will join us. So that link for that Zoom link invite will be on our website on the event page. And if you haven't already signed on for our newsletter, then you can do that through the Gaia's Temple website, and that will certainly make sure that you receive the monthly emails and the news that comes in like a week before every event to remind you about what's going on. So Gaia's Temple 20th. Wow. I don't know how I did that. I'm still younger than springtime. I haven't aged one little bit in 20 years. And then it's the magic. I'm telling you, it's the magic. Finally, because we're on Zoom now, we can have a little bit of a fellowship service after the service, not fellowship service, fellowship hour after the service. So as soon as we close this whole thing down with our final song, then we're going to shut off the YouTube link. And then if you want to stay on, we'll unmute everybody and we can all say hi and talk. I'm just figuring about 20 minutes or so, longer if we feel like it. But I do hope that you'll stick around so we can all say hi and share some fellowship. That was a big reason why we moved to the Zoom platform, so that we're able to do that. Okay, I believe that is all the announcements. for my closing thought today, I have this adorable poem that I found, and it's called Down the Lanes of August by Edgar Albert Guest. And it goes like this. Down the lanes of August, and the bees upon the wing, all the world's in color now, and all the songbirds sing. Never reds will redder be, more golden be the gold, down the lanes of August, and the summer getting old. Mother Nature's brushes now with paints are dripping wet. Gorgeous is her canvas, with the tints we can't forget. Here's a yellow wheat field, purple asters there. Riotous the colors that she's splashing everywhere. Red the cheeks of apples, and pink the peaches bloom, redolent the breezes with the sweetness of perfume. Everything is beauty crowned by skies of clearest blue. Mother Earth is at her best once more for me and you. Down the lanes of August, with her blossoms at our feet, rich with gold and scarlet, dripping wet with honey sweet. Rich or poor, no matter, here our splendors spread, down the lanes of August for all who wish to tread. Blessed be. All right, so we're gonna switch over to Patrick, who is gonna sing out the directions. We can sing along with him. Well, I'll be muted, but he will.
So, spirits of the north, powers of the earth, go if you must, stay if you will, within or without, we remain with you still. Spirits of the west, powers of the water, go if you must, stay if you will, within or without, we remain with you still. Powers of the south, spirits of fire, go if you must, stay if you will, within or without, we remain with you still. Spirits of the east, powers of air, go if you must, stay if you will, within or without, we remain with you still. And powers of the center, go if you must, stay if you will, within or without, we remain with you still. Blessed be.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to sing our final song. The circle is open. Here we go. The circle is open and unbroken. May the love of the goddess go in our hearts. Merry meet and merry part, and merry meet again. Blessed be, blessed be, blessed be. Thank you so much, my friends. Stay healthy. Bye-bye.